Yeah, life here in Animal Kingdom. This is my first time.
Digo, mañana o el lunes para ver si...
Però vabbè, fai 10 ore ne fai 12. Mi conta per 2 ore in più te le pagano tanto, cioè la differenza era veramente tanto, cioè,
Let's go. John Burwell, welcome to Kilimanjaro Safaris. My name is Stanley and I'll be your safari trip guide into the Harambe Bay Wildlife Reserve. If you guys look above, you'll see that animal spotting line. Now, still if you don't see any of the animals that may be on the reserve today. Just so note, not all the animals may be out about today. Some of them do tend to migrate from time to time. Others are often nocturnal by nature. But there's always a good chance we'll see most of the animals up on that list.
you're good.
Now, our adventure begins here at the Little Literary Forest.
Like a pro.
Here, a lot of animals will use the cover of shade and trees in order to disguise themselves away from any potential predators. Be sure to keep a nice good lookout where an animal may be hiding, or they could be hiding behind any corner, or even behind a tree around here. On the right-hand side, you'll actually see one of the okapi. Okapi used to be thought as a mythological animal, something akin to like a dragon or unicorn. That's because in the Western world, they couldn't even find the okapi until 1901. When people found the okapi, they thought it was related to a zebra based off the stripy pattern. But they know it's actually more closely related to a giraffe. That's because the okapi share many similar qualities to a giraffe, such as a prehensile tongue and even a similar skeletal structure. Up on the hill on the left-hand side, you can actually spot one of the bongos up there. Bongos are known as ghosts of the forest as they blend in with their surroundings. Bongos have these long, curved horns that allow them to escape into the underbrush whenever they're chased by a predator. We're going to head down towards the watering hole around the left-hand side. These watering holes are very essential. Some animals could migrate for hundreds of miles for a drink of water.
Oh my god.
On the left-hand side, you can see a nice good look at one of the black rhinos. Black rhinos could weigh up to nearly 3,000 pounds. Their horns are made out of keratin. Keratin is the same stuff that's made out of your fingernails and hair. Regrettably, unfortunately for the black rhino, they are sadly critically endangered. There's less than 5,000 of them left out in the wild. They once populated the entire continent of Africa until they were nearly poached to extinction. We're now starting to make our way over towards the other end of the Little Literary Forest. And now starting to make our way over towards the Safi River. Now within the Safi River we'll see a lot of different animals that live on land and in the water for most of their lifetimes. Be sure to keep a nice good lookout, especially for any animals that could be hiding underwater. The Safi River itself does begin over on the right-hand side. This river is known to kind of snake its way all the way towards the savannah, providing a lot of rich habitats for many of the inhabitants out here. If you follow along the river on the right, look to where there's two tree trunks just kind of sticking out of the water. To the left of the tree trunks, there's a pair of hippos. Hippos can weigh up to nearly 5,500 pounds. They can actually hold their breath underwater for at least 8 minutes at a time before resurfacing up for air. On the left, you'll see an entire group of hippos. A group of hippos is commonly known as a bloat. A bloat's main job is usually to protect any baby hippos and their mothers. Also on the left, you'll see several of the pink-back pelicans. These pink-back pelicans usually get their coloration around the mating season. Very fascinating little fact about the pink-back pelican. After about a week or two, once they hatched out of their eggs, they grow to full size the following week later. They have an average wingspan of 3 feet, but because of their rapid growth, they sometimes can extend almost 9 feet in diameter, from wingtip to wingtip. Over on the left-hand side, you'll see several Nile crocodiles. These Nile crocodiles can grow up to nearly 15 feet in length and weigh up to 500 pounds. Fascinating little fact about Nile crocodiles, both mothers and fathers will carry their eggs in their mouth to protect the eggs from any potential predators. We're now starting to leave the Safi River behind us, and now starting to make our way over towards the savannah up ahead. Within the savannah, we'll see a lot of different animals that to graze from some of the tallest palm trees. Others are known to hide among the lowest grasslands. We'll also see many different animals that to drink from this tree on the right. This is known as the baobab tree. To the local natives, that tree is more commonly known as the Tree of Life, as many animals would often drink from the trunk of the tree, especially during major droughts. Out throughout the savannah, much of the Serengeti grass often dots all over the landscape. This grass is very nutritious to many animals, but more importantly it provides cover for both predators and prey alike. The first animal we'll see is over here on the right-hand side. These are some of the Maasai giraffes. They are indeed the world's tallest land mammal. They can grow up to nearly 20 feet in height. They tend to walk around the savannah, cruising at speeds of nearly 10 miles an hour. Others will gallop in short, quick bursts of 35 miles an hour. Beside the giraffes, you can see some of the tiny little springbok. Springbok can leap up to nearly 6 feet high upwards in the air and 13 feet forward. They're also known to move at speeds of nearly 40 miles an hour. They are some of the world's top 10 fastest land mammals. Male springbok are known to have these beautiful lyre-shaped horns. Look closely on the left-hand side within a little cave area. We'll find another animal known as the African wild dogs. Now, African wild dogs are Africa's most successful hunters. These guys have an 80 to near 85% success rate. That's because they actually know how to work together as a pack in order to bring down their prey. Because of this whole pack-like mentality, they make sure the weakest among them is fed first. That way they become stronger for later hunts. Coming up on the left and on the right, you'll see these large rock-like formations. These are not quite rocks. these are actually termite mounds. Termite mounds are made out of termite saliva, dirt, and dung, all stacked together. When it's all heated by the hot sun, these termite mounds can become almost as hard as concrete. This is actually quite important as both giraffes and elephants tend to use them like a scratching post. Antelope would often climb on top of the worn down ones to spy for any predators that could hide among the grasslands. There's a fascinating little fact about giraffes. You know that they only sleep up to 30 minutes a day? Sometimes not even a full solid 30. Sometimes it may be broken up into 5-minute power naps. On the right here, you can get a nice good look at one of the baby giraffes. Whenever baby giraffes are born, they're already 6 feet tall. They communicate with their mothers using ultrasonic sounds. Little horn-like protrusions on top of their heads, those are called ossicones. Ossicones are quite different than horns. Most horns are actually hollow inside. These little ossicones, they're actually filled to the brim with bone. Usually bone marrow and bone tissue wrapped around it. Fur. Now the ossicones are meant to protect the giraffe's head from usually any of the low-hanging branches. Now regrettably for these giraffes, they are known to be quite critically endangered. In some countries, there's less than 2,000 giraffes within their borders. Loss of habitat is a major cause of their population decrease, as is usually as well as poaching. On the right, you can see a very big horned animal down there. Those are known as the Ankoli cattle. They're the only domesticated animals out here on the reserve. The Ankoli cattle are those horns are actually hollow inside. They're made with like a honeycomb-like structure of bone that kind of help keeps the horns upwards. And blood vessels would flow up and down the horn and back into their bodies. This actually is very important as this actually helps regulate their body temperatures, especially during some of the very hot African summers. Now we're going to make our way over towards one of the more forest regions of the savannah. Within this next forest region, we'll be able to find some of the largest animals out here on the reserve. Many of these savannas actually began as a dense forest, or sometimes even a really lush jungle. Over time, certain large animals began to knock the trees down to make more room for themselves and for other animals to walk around in. As more and more trees were knocked down, more and more grazing animals would come out into the open. They would often graze at the open grasslands until the savanna looks like what it does today. Look on the left, you'll see a pair of mandrills. Mandrills are some of the world's largest monkeys. They can grow up to 100 pounds. They're relatively shy creatures, but despite their shyness, they like to live in colonies up to 100. Mandrills are quite interesting as they have a special pouch in their cheek that allows them to store food for snacks. Coming up on the right, you can spot an African elephant over there. African elephants can weigh up to nearly 10,000 to almost 13,000 pounds. Around the age of 13, male African elephants actually break off from the main herd to form their own bachelor herds. Female elephants are usually guided by a matriarch. The matriarch has the final say as to where the elephants are to go to eat, sleep, and more specifically, the safety and care of any of the baby elephants. We're actually going to make our way around and see if we can find more African elephants. The main herd often likes to stay within 5 to 10 miles of one another. Elephants are incredibly social animals. They don't like to stay alone for too long. However, they also do tend to be quite territorial, even towards one another. You ever wonder what elephants like to eat? They like to eat a combination of dry grass, leaves, roots, and surprisingly a lot of red clay. Clay actually has a lot of nutrients that can't be found in most plants. So at times, elephants would often dig into rock walls to eat the red clay that's stored inside. Roughly in total, the African elephant consumes up to nearly 300 pounds of food a day. They're also known to drink up to nearly 40 gallons of water. This is roughly around 8 times more than the average human usually consumes in about a week or two. Most of the water can be found throughout the many watering holes, or sometimes through these baobab trees here on the right. Each one usually contains almost around 1,000 to 2,000 gallons of water. Now, elephants actually have many different ways or keep cool, especially on hot summer days. They can actually flap their ears. By flapping their ears, they're helping generate wind currents that help lower their internal body temperature up to a difference of nearly 15 degrees. Another wonderful way for them to cool down is by slinging mud, dust, dirt, or grass all over their backs and sides. This actually helps keep their skin from tearing as well. Coming up on the left, we'll see several of the greater flamingos. Now these flamingos are known to be the lightest pink of the flamingo species. Their diet is highly consistent of beta-carotene. It's usually found in briny shrimp. Basically, briny shrimp is what allows the flamingo's white feathers to turn pink over time. Did you know that a group of flamingos is often called a flamboyance? Each flamboyance contains roughly around 20,000 flamingos. That's a lot of flamingos. Around the left, you'll see a very large hole in the ground. These large holes are known as mud wallows. Mud wallows often act as both a mosquito repellent and sometimes it's even used as a sunblock. Usually if there's a very large sized mud wallow. Sometimes large animals tend to also be nearby too. If you look closely near the top of the hill on the left, it's actually one of the cheetahs. Cheetahs are some of the world's fastest land mammals. They can run at speeds of nearly 50 miles an hour. A cheetah's body is actually built a bit more like a canine body rather than a feline body. In fact, cheetahs don't make too many feline noises. They prefer to emit high-pitched chirps to communicate with their cubs and family members. They're among some of the very few diurnal predators out here on the reserve, meaning they prefer to hunt early in the morning or around sundown. Coming up ahead, you'll see a large Kopi rock formation. These Kopi rocks are known to jut out of the savanna and often provide a very good vantage point for certain large predators within this area.
Shouldn't the lions there? Are they hiding? They're chomping at us.
One such large predator is the African lion you see here on the left. Male lions can weigh up to nearly 500 pounds. Female lions cap around 300 pounds. A lion can leap to nearly 10 to 15 feet upwards in the air in a single bound. They can also run up to speeds of nearly 30 to 35 miles an hour. Now that a lion's roar is so deep, it can be detected up to 6 miles away. Their eyesight almost matches that of a human during the day, yet around night it's around 6 times better than that of humans. Humans tend to fear lions, not realizing that, well, without lions, much of the savannah as we know it today would not be able to exist. Coming over on the left-hand side, you can spot a pair of warthogs. Warthogs are some of the largest known burrowing animals. Now that warthogs actually have 2 pairs of tusks. The upper pair that you normally see, those are used to dig the holes in the ground. The lower pair are more razor sharp, and that's what they use in order to defend themselves. Warthogs are actually confirmed to be some of the close cousins of the domesticated pig. Coming up on the right-hand side, you'll see that there's a bontabuck back there. It's a type of antelope closely related to wildebeest. On the ground, you'll see several eggs. Those are indeed our ostrich eggs. Ostrich eggs are 10 times larger than chicken eggs. A human man could actually stand on top of an ostrich egg and it would not break. They are incredibly durable. We're now making our way over towards one of the last areas of the savannah. This next last area is actually known as the Magadi Glen. Now here, a lot of animals would use this little habitat like an oasis. More often than not, animals are losing their habitats due to global climate change or to human populations taking over their territories. Other animals tend to use this little habitat like a shortcut to make their way over towards other areas within the reserve. We're actually going to use it as our own mini shortcut to start making our way back over towards the warden's post. Now, I hope you folks enjoyed today's Kilimanjaro safaris. We managed to see a lot of fantastic animals out here today. But if you want to see even more animals, be sure to visit the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. At the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail, you get to see gorillas, meerkats, naked mole rats, African bullfrogs, and several exotic species of African birds and fish. Here at Kilimanjaro Safaris are all about the safety and conservation of all of these animals. If you want to help out, you're more than welcome to do so. Whether by donating to a local wildlife organization, or simply just by reducing, reusing, or recycling back at home. Do you know just by recycling a bottle of water, you could be saving at least 5 to 10 gallons of oil? Recycling a whole stack of paper could save at least 10 to 20.
xvid. Now, maintain